Call this meeting to order, the meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission for February the 26th, 2026. We'll start with a call to order. By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
Commissioner Allen.
Present.
Commissioner Franks is absent tonight. Commissioner Lindsay is present. Commissioner Orr.
Present.
Commissioner Mann.
Here.
Commissioner McLemore.
Present.
Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
And Alderman Peterson.
Here.
All right. This point of our meeting is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you would like to make a public comment on any item on the agenda, we'd ask you to simply wait until we get to that item on the agenda, and then we'll have time for public comment. But in the meantime, you still need to fill out a speaker card. You can hand that speaker card to our staff, and they will get it to me. Then you come up to the microphone and state your name and address, and we ask you to limit your comment to 2 minutes. So presently, I have 2 speaker cards. I wasn't sure. Elaine Harrison, I'm pretty sure. Elaine wants to speak to the item for the hillside overlay, item number 5. And Jim Schindley, I'm assuming that's for the Parks Master Plan. Okay, item number 12. Okay, good. Okay, so nobody wants to speak at this point. So next item is the approval of the minutes, consideration of approval for the January the 22nd, 2026 Franklin Municipal Planning Commission minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Orr and a second by Commissioner Harrison. By roll call vote, are there any corrections or additions or modifications to the minutes? Anybody? Okay, by roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
I will be abstaining. I was absent.
Okay. Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Are there any announcements by staff?
Oh, yes, I'm going to turn that over to Shauna to announce that because I do not have the date off the top of my head. Sorry, Shauna. If you want to pull it up. We do have an officials training coming up that is going to be held on April 1st, and the time will be 8 until 1.
So elected and appointed officials training at the police headquarters building. We're gonna start around 8:30 and then run till about lunchtime or so. You're gonna get an email soon from Amy Sue, so be on the lookout for that. She's gonna ask you for your lunch order. And lunch is provided, snacks are provided, drinks and all the things. We're gonna go over all the fun stuff, ethics, open records, open meetings. We're gonna have Sam Edwards come and talk to us about boards and working with BOMA. It's gonna be good, so put it on your calendar, April 1st. And it's not April Fool's joke, April 1st.
Okay, training on April the 1st. Any other announcements? That's all? Okay, next item up is consent agenda. And we have, at the applicant's request, one of the items on consent agenda is a West Haven plat. And the applicant has requested that we pull that item. That's item number 9. And so we will pull that item. And what the applicant is requesting to do is to defer because you've got some corrections or additions to make to the plat. So we'll defer till next month. When we get to number 9, we'll call for it. The consideration for consent agenda are items 3 and 4, items 6 through 8, and then item 9 through 11. Those are all on consent agenda.
10 through 11. No, 9.
I'm sorry. 10th and 11. 10 and 11.
Right.
Okay. So that's consent agenda. Item 3 and 4, item 6 through 8, and then item 10 and 11. Is there a motion?
For approval as amended.
Second.
Okay. We have a proper motion and second. By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes. So the next item up is item number 5. Consideration of ordinance 2025-54, an ordinance to rezone 202.60 acres to revise the Hillside Hillcrest overlay, the HHO district boundaries for the property located south of MacHatcher Memorial Parkway and east of Franklin Road at 354 Franklin Road. We'll start with staff presentation. Joey?
Okay, the applicant is proposing to alter the Hillside Hillcrest overlay district to align with the revised conservation design concept line of the property located at 354 Franklin Road. The property consists of over 200 acres and is zoned estate residential. The modifications to the conservation line were approved by Planning Commission at its September 25th, 2025 meeting through an Envision Franklin Plan Amendment. The conservation design concept promotes the protection of the city's sensitive lands and environmental features and follows the boundaries of these natural features rather than parcel lines. These areas include floodplains, hillsides with steep slopes, hilltops, water resources, tree rows, forested areas, and specimen trees. The tools within the zoning ordinance designated to implement the guidance of the conservation design concept are the zoning overlay districts, such as the floodway overlay, the floodway fringe overlay, and the hillside hillcrest overlay. These zoning tools are the mechanisms by which the city ensures that these areas are protected when development is proposed. While the majority of the proposed HHO line for the property aligns with the recently revised conservation line, the applicant has omitted an area from the proposed HHO that was specifically added to the conservation design concept during the September Envision Franklin Plan Amendment approval. The area omitted from the HHO is an area of approximately 1.40 acres located just north of the single-family lots that front along Ash Drive. Let me transfer over to the other exhibit. The area in question was discussed by the FMPC as an important addition to the conservation area, as protecting the area would result in preservation of the existing stone wall and tree buffer for adjacent Ash Drive residents. The HHO boundaries are determined by a combination of GIS data that typically includes elevation contours of hillsides and hillcrests, steep slopes, and a viewshed analysis from major thoroughfares. The area in question may not align directly from some of these typical factors. However, this is a unique site, and the Planning Commission determined during the Envision Franklin Amendment process that this area is best preserved due to natural features such as the tree cover and the existing stone wall. The tool to implement the protection of this area and these features is through the zoning overlay districts, such as the HHO. While other tools are available within the ordinance to protect and preserve lands, they are site development tools that an applicant can choose to use or not use. Extending the HHO over this area of the site aligns the overlay zoning with Envision Franklin's conservation design concept and meets the intent of the recent plan amendment. As a consideration, the Historic Zoning Commission did approve a preliminary recommendation for the alteration of this HHO line as proposed. However, that commission did not discuss the merits of whether this specific area of the conservation design concept be included in the HHO rezoning. The Historic Commission preliminary recommendation is as follows. The Historic Zoning Commission recommends approval to the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission and Board of Maine Aldermen, provided that any future development does not increase the visibility from Franklin Road and nearby historic resources, including Roper's Knob, Whitehall, Creekside, and that any future rezoning request that would change the permitted maximum building height, scale, massing, or setbacks does not increase the visibility from those resources beyond what is shown in the viewshed study associated with this historic hillside overlay rezoning request. If the HHO rezoning is approved by the Board of Maine Aldermen, the Historic Zoning Commission will further review a future development proposal for these characters at a later date. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Maine Aldermen to deny ordinance 2025-54. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Joey. So, public comment. I called Elaine Harrison. If you'd like to come up and make a presentation.
Hello, my name's Elaine Harrison. I live at 322 Ash Drive. And as you all know, I'm against anything being done within 500 feet of my home. I've been there since 1972, and when we moved in, it wasn't buildable. I'd like to know, when did it become buildable? And we wasn't notified about it. No one knows? You see, we've been coming to meetings since 2020, and I've been to every meeting that you all have held regarding this project that they're supposed to be doing. They've done so many names, so much different stuff that they want to do, and nothing's done. So I'd like to know, when did it come buildable?
This modification in this corner of this lot, I mean, this is the first time we've seen it presented after handling by the Historic Zoning Commission. So staff has recommended disapproval. So we have to see how it plays out. But
Okay. Well, I'm here at this meeting, and I guess if we have another one, I'll be at that one too. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Elaine. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, we'll turn it over to the applicant for a presentation. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Herschel. That was my mother, Herschel Bailey. I live at 322 Ash Drive in Franklin. And I guess a lot of people in the city are extremely concerned. And the reason they're concerned is because they're seniors. They have lived there in the neighborhood for well over, I think, 55, 60 years. And they're more concerned that this is going to have an effect on them. When I say effect, I don't mean just lights. I don't mean just noise. I'm talking about psychologically. You know, they've lived in that neighborhood for a very long time. We've watched the city grow. The city has grown astronomically. We would like to have that property behind their preserve for them, if for nobody, just for them. You know, they've lived here for such a long time. I feel very strongly about it because a lot of people have come to us at our churches concerned about it. Cookouts this past summer concerned about it. And they feel left out. A lot of people that are coming here are coming, and it seems like they're just looking over the individuals. My mother happens to be one of those seniors, and I can't go home unless if I speak about it. No, I'm joking.
Okay.
But I feel that way because, you know, like I said, I enjoy having the woods back there. It's been back there a long time, and not to mention they told us, my grandparents used to tell us for years that we could never build on that property. So many of our family members wanted to build on the property, and we were told that we had to stay off of it because it was preserved. And so when she asked the question, why did that change? You know, when did it become buildable? When, you know, all of these different things. A lot of people are seeing what's going on Park Street. A lot of people are seeing what's going on down through Natchez. We understand that city is growing. We understand that people have a right to do what they would like with their property. We're not trying to stop the development. We just want to keep the development at bay where it needs to be. I understand that the city does buffers in the neighborhood, which is great. I think that that's one of, I think you really, really need to look at this and what they're planning on, leaving it as it is, because it would do us justice. If nothing, just with them being told for 52 years, it's a long time to live at a property and being told you couldn't build on it. City codes doesn't have answers for it. Of course, I mean, you all don't have answers for it, it seems, as well. But they feel very strongly about it. I'm asking for you all to look at this very seriously of what they are requesting, because obviously you had stated your name. I'm sorry.
Lindsay?
Lindsay, you had stated when we first started this that there was going to be some challenges with rezoning. And we all have seen what has happened to the areas of Brentwood with rezoning. We've seen what's happened down near Columbia, duplex in that area. These, you know, you're dealing with people's lives when you make those changes. And I ask everybody here tonight to just really look and take a look at what is going on to keep us safe from this development that's trying to creep in. I think you have the power. I think you all know what's right. And I think I've said enough. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, applicant.
Hello, my name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing the applicant tonight, Cumberland and Western Resources. I handed you some 8.5 by 11s that are from the Joint Conceptual Workshop. These are a part of the presentation then, and I found them to be useful during the Joint Conceptual Workshop, and I think they'll be useful tonight as well. First, we have been working with staff for probably the better part of 18 months, looking at what's the criteria that establishes the HHO line. The zoning ordinance states that the HHO boundaries shall be determined by a combination of GIS data, including elevation contours of hillside, hill crests, steep slopes, and a viewshed analysis for major thoroughfares. Those are kind of the three base criteria that we use to establish those HHO lines in the city. If you turn to the next page, then we have Envision Franklin. On the left was the Envision Franklin Conservation Area prior to your vote to amend the conservation area here on this property. There were originally 4 areas that we were proposing to amend. One of those areas along Machatcher Parkway was removed by the Planning Commission and is not in this proposal tonight. One area is at the Cool Springs Boulevard intersection. There is an area that is alongside the railroad track under where the words say rural reserve. And then a conservation area was added in the Envision Franklin policy alongside the properties that back up or front onto Ash Drive that back up. That area there that's added is about 250 foot in depth. So from the rear property line of the properties that are on Ash Drive to the stone walls, about 250 feet. On the next page, then, we have the orange line that shows the existing hillside overlay. That's the zone line that's there today. We were asked by staff to stake and survey the proposed HHO line and provide a legal description of that HHO line so that it could be recorded as a rezoning. So that was quite a bit of field work. During the Joint Conceptual Workshop, this is the map that we presented, showing the 2 purple lines following the tree lines there, following the contour lines that are existing out there today. At the Historic Zoning Commission, when we presented to DRC and to the Historic Zoning Commission for their recommendation to the Planning Commission, this is the map that we presented as well. So it shows the purple line on the west tying from the existing HHO to the existing HHO along the tree line that parallels Ash Drive. So on the next page, then, you can start to see how it relates to the zoning criteria. These are the steep slopes, 14 and 20%. You'll notice on this that the proposed HHO line is at the base of where those 14% slopes occur. Now, also keep in mind that there's an HHO buffer that's a 500-foot offset. Any naturally occurring slopes that are 14% or greater within that 500 feet are protected. That's a protected area. On the next page, then, we have the tree line. And you'll notice that on the west side, we're following the tree line that's existing there today. It appears to be a natural tree line that was left by farmers years ago. And then we're following a tree line there across from Cool Springs Boulevard intersection where there's been land disturbance, grading. The Mallory Valley water utility line goes through there. It's about 2.55 acres in area. From that point at the Cool Springs intersection there, going southbound to the property line, is about a 60-foot grade change in elevation. And you'll notice that it does not follow the tree line that is along MacHatcher Parkway. It does not follow the 150-foot scenic corridor buffer. It does not follow or parallel a a contour line. It's actually going up in elevation about 60 feet. So as we're looking at modifying this HHO line, we were trying to stay within the boundaries of those areas that have been manipulated by grading, and so tying into the HHO line on the western side, where it existed since I think 2009, made logical sense to us. The conservation policy is established in Envision Franklin. On the next couple of pages, we have, just for your reference, some sight lines, views, sheds that are looking into the site. But if you'll flip to the very last page, you'll notice that this area has been calculated at 1.54 acres, and Joey said it was 1.4. So we may have been off a little bit on our calculation numbers, but whether it's 1.4 or 1.54, the only way that an Envision Franklin conservation policy does not affect the plan is if we submit an estate residential 2-acre lot subdivision and it goes straight to preliminary plat. So if you're using by right zoning and we submit directly to the Planning Commission a by right preliminary plat, Envision Franklin policy is not looked at. Now, if we were to submit a rezoning to R1 or R2, then Envision Franklin does apply, and now we have to follow the conservation policy. So this is the only instance that it wouldn't apply. That's not true? You still look at Envision Franklin even when? Okay, I misunderstood that.
I'll chime in after. Unless
Would you clarify that, please?
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you rezone to any base district other than the planned district and come in with a site plan for one of those base districts like R1, R2, R3, any of those, or let's say a commercial district, neighborhood commercial or something like that, and you come in with a site plan, we do not look to Envision Franklin. That would be a strict rezoning and then straight to site plan where Envision Franklin does not apply. If you come in with a planned district, that is when we look to Envision Franklin.
Okay. But you do look to Envision Franklin to establish an appropriate base zone district. And in this particular instance, Envision Franklin says that the lot size has to be a half acre. So there are policies in place, there are zoning districts in place that would still achieve some level of preservation in larger lot sizes in this area, right? 50% open space set aside.
Yeah, so it gets a little complicated because the property owner could still request an Envision Franklin plan amendment to a different design concept. If that's approved, it wouldn't necessarily change the conservation line or the HHO line, however it gets approved. And then you could get a base zoning district that aligns with the new design concept. So there's a lot of what ifs.
Sorry to put you on the spot like
But
that.
yeah.
We are not trying to be argumentative with staff. We're absolutely not. We have been working with staff for 18 to 24 months. We want to do the right thing. We're coming to you tonight, Planning Commission, to say, is the HHO really the right tool to be setting aside this preservation, or is tying back into the HHO line where it was established in 2009 appropriate? So happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, discussion?
Need a motion first.
Is there a motion on this item? Okay.
I'd like to move for a approval to the BOMA as submitted by the applicant with one condition, and that is that the blue line shown on the staff report Exhibit A be incorporated into the HHO revision.
Okay, we have a motion for approval.
I'll second that, so we have a proper motion.
I need some clarification on that.
Discussion.
So is there discussion?
Yes, hold on, so if I was.
Yes. So as I see it, the goal is to protect that additional area of tree line and the rock wall by making the adjustment to the HHO, which to the point, that HHO line as shown in purple does not follow a contour. It somewhat follows a tree line. It goes up and down contour. So it's not like it's a line set based on something in the field. It's more of an agreed upon line that's been vetted over and over again. So by incorporating this additional tree line and rock wall into that, we're not bending or breaking any rules that we haven't already looked at 1,000 times before. So I feel like it's an appropriate thing to do would be add what we want to do anyway is to protect that area, and it's easy enough to add it by amendment or by revision to the HHO line, and then we're done.
Okay.
So you are talking about this because there's another slide in here that has a blue line on it that is not this slide. So I just want to be sure that you.
I referenced staff report Exhibit A.
Staff report,
It's at the top
Exhibit A.
left.
Okay.
And I'll just clarify, since there are two blue lines on here, the circle is just circling the point of
Yes.
discussion. So it's the straight blue line around the existing tree growth. That's,
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify that.
Comments, questions? Yes, sir. Commissioner Harrison.
Your proposal is to include it to go along the blue line to incorporate the 1.4 to 1.54 acres?
Correct.
Okay.
Clearly, where everybody can understand it.
The motion was to approve the amendment, the ordinance, with a condition that we include that little corner section, the 1.4, 1.54 acres, that's defined by that straight blue line segment in the corner of Staff Exhibit A. That's to tie that section, that corner section into the HHO.
Because it says proposed HHO revision. That's what it says on the back.
And we're not sure yet, but we're talking internally because now that we have this amendment on the floor, we might need a survey to show exactly where that line is. So if this passes, we might have to talk about getting the survey before we can take it to BOMA. And that doesn't really impact you. I just want to make sure we say that because we really need to, like, right now we're talking about a blue line on a map and we don't really have a
Yeah.
meets and bounds survey. And we're all kind of, talking about a line.
Okay.
That's all those trees right now. They might not be there either.
Commissioner Williamson?
Yeah, I have a question on this. So, on the Hill Estates, there's those two properties, and they go, if we're looking at Exhibit A, where they kind of extend, and then the back portion is in the buffer, and the front portion is in the hillside overlay. I think I have some questions about, extending that and basically putting kind of more restrictive uses on that. My question to staff is, what are kind of the use restrictions in a buffer versus hillside overlay as far as structures? Say if that property wanted to put a shed or something on the back of their property.
So the two lots that continue from Hill Estates are not, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy and Joe, are not actually covered by the HHO. They are left out as single-family lots that were already established prior to the creation of the HHO. So these the HHO with the blue line would basically go around those lots. And the encroachments allowed in the HHO are really just, open space areas, and you can have, I think, necessary infrastructure, which is really up to the DRT to review as if it's required or not. Are there other encroachments I'm missing?
No, public infrastructure is allowed, but yeah, the conservation never went over those two properties because it wasn't. The request to extend the HHO is not including those properties because those property owners aren't here.
Yeah,
it's just
that's
the big
my
property.
Question.
The big property.
Are we doing something to somebody's property without their knowledge?
No,
And
it's
that
going
answer is
to.
no.
The
Okay.
extension of the HHO would wrap around those two because those two property owners aren't here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to double check.
So if I might, I need clarification. So you're saying that those two properties are exempt, so anything could go on, that those are not.
So they're zoned, and that purple area that Joey's showing at the bottom of those lots are in the HHO. So that portion of the lot where Joey is putting his mouse, those are in the HHO, those are undevelopable. The back of those, the northern part of those lots are in the HHO buffer zone. So if there's steep slopes there, they are limited to development. If there's not, then they can develop on the backside. But we're not asking to put the HHO on those properties. We're saying leave them as they are today.
Because my concern, if I would, because I think I've told you guys this, so I want to be perfectly transparent about this. I own property in Hill Estates, but not on Ash Drive. However, I do have hard ties to Ash Drive. My great-grandmother owned a house there. She's deceased now. My family no longer owns property there. As of 3 months ago, my family that had a property on Ash Drive no longer has a house there. But I have hard ties to this, and they were told that the Harrisons are not lying. Forever, my great-grandmother dug rocks on that hill. She would dig rocks and bring them down because they were always told they could never build there, but she always wanted to. And so I noticed that it keeps saying that the HGC says, the view has to be protected for Roper's Knob. They name all of these historic sites in Franklin that the view has to be protected from, but they never mention residents, right? So residents are even, in my opinion, are more important than historic sites, right? So I just wanted to make sure that what we're doing now maintains that any changes that we make protect the residents of this community, because I have heart ties to these. So that's why I want to make sure when we're talking about blue lines and green lines and purple lines that, what's going on there. That's why I want to be clear on that.
Okay, does everybody understand then what Amy was talking about, with the front half of those two lots are in the HHO.
Correct.
The back half, because the HHO follows that purple line as it zigzags across the side. So the front halves of those two lots are in the HHO. The back halves are not in the HHO because they're not in that.
Excuse me, can I just chime in for a second? I know that this is not the time. I know it's not.
Yeah,
That needs to be corrected. They have our property that's right here. That's what I'm just speaking with Mr. Gamble about. To the far left that goes all the way back towards the line. That property is ours. They've got it listed for the neighbors. The neighbors sold theirs years ago. Does not, that needs to be corrected.
okay. Yeah,
Take note of that.
staff will make note of that, so.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
but why the denial, staff? Though, so I'm asking. So my question though is, why the denial though, if that's the case? So that was my question. Yes.
So, yeah, so just, let's step back a minute. So, the purple line that I'm trying to trace right here is the existing HHO line, and the applicant is proposing to maintain it as it is today. However, the blue line that I'm tracing now is the roughly the location of the updated conservation design concept line. So that does not align with what the applicant is proposing. So this actually protects more area on that conservation design concept line. So that's why we are recommending denial.
Okay.
And just a further clarification, the Historic Zoning Commission their purview is mainly sites that are on the National Register of Historic Places.
This is not.
So the Planning Commission looks at the broader picture. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
So that's why they recommended approval, because they weren't focused specifically on this part of the HHO proposal. That's why we brought it to your attention tonight.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I know I seconded the amendment for discussion purposes, but I will not be supporting the recommendation for two reasons. I don't think the existing, as we recently approved it, needs to change, the hillside overlay. And then also with the blue line, I don't think an HHO is the appropriate tool to preserve that rock wall. So I think there's other tools that would be better suited to do that, like the conservation-based zoning. So for that reason, I won't be supporting this motion.
Okay. Anybody else? Commissioner Williamson?
Yeah, so this is for zoning, but this is kind of in part what Marcia was saying about view from the residents. So this would come back to us with development plan, with building heights and everything. Would that be correct?
So it depends on what development is proposed on the site. If it meets the zoning district, it would only come back before you in the form of a preliminary plat, and we can only apply the regulations in the subdivision regulations and the zoning code. Without this zoning district applied, we could not, as staff, tell the applicant that they would need to conserve this area. Now, they could willingly choose to place a conservation easement over it to align with the design concept. That is something that the applicant could do on their own, but we would not have the enforcement ability as staff to require that, and you would not as the Planning Commission through a preliminary plat. If it came through with a development plan, we could look to Envision Franklin and say this area is to be conserved, it needs to be in a conservation easement, and that does become part of the discussion. It just depends on what development is proposed.
Okay.
So our motion is then, what is our specific motion before us?
The motion is to approve or to recommend approval to Board of Mayor and Aldermen that to approve the ordinance with a condition to include this corner part of this as
With
it's
condition.
contained in the conservation portion of the Envision Franklin. Yeah. Any further questions, comments? Okay, By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Lindsay votes nay. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
No.
Commissioner McLemore,
No.
Commissioner Williamson.
No.
Was that a yes?
No.
No, no. And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, that's 5-3, so that motion fails. So is there another motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, and I would like to recommend disapproval of the zoning to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by
Commissioner
Commissioner
Allen.
Mann
And Allen
and seconded by Commissioner Allen. Is there any discussion?
I have a quick question. Just so specifically, what are you proposing to just deny this item?
Correct, so it would stay as is.
Say that is okay.
Okay,
Requesting tonight.
Yes.
by roll call,
We won't discuss that.
No discussion.
Yes, for discussion.
yeah, is there any discussion?
Yes. So based on staff's recommendation to deny, what does this applicant have to do to fix this issue?
So it would proceed to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with the recommendation for denial. It would be up to the applicant at that juncture to make a decision on how they wish to proceed. They could withdraw their request and come back in with a different request that includes this area, which would come back to the Planning Commission for a new recommendation if that happens. Or they could proceed on to BOMA in hopes that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen would approve it as proposed tonight.
Other discussion? Comments? By roll call vote,
Yes.
I'd like,
Lindsay.
I'd like to recognize the applicant again.
okay.
Thank you, Chairman. We are happy to defer this item. We had a lot of great conversation tonight. We've heard you, and we are happy to defer at the applicant's request, and we'll bring you back a new plan next month.
You want a 1 month deferral?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the,
Okay. So you have to withdraw in the minute. Withdraw.
Can we just have 1 second? Let me refer to Amy about the submittal schedule perhaps and what the timing would look like.
Yep. They would submit. Is there a possibility that you can submit us something by March 5th? That would be the appropriate time to get something on the March agenda. And this isn't a motion yet, but that's a good question.
To answer Amy's question, if not, we'll defer another month. We'll do our best.
So you will
But I
come to
think
the
we can
meeting and then defer again if
I
you
think
didn't
we
have
can make
enough.
the date.
Okay.
If something happens and we can't, then we'll request a deferral another month.
okay, so the initial request is for a 1 month deferral.
That's their request, the motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to withdraw my motion to deny. Does that need a second?
And I'll withdraw my second.
So then I would like to make a new motion to defer to the March Planning Commission meeting. I don't know the exact date.
Right.
26th.
And I second that deferral, motion to defer.
Okay, we have a proper motion by Commissioner Mann to defer this action to the March 26th meeting, properly seconded by Commissioner Allen. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none by roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
and Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. We're deferred by 1 month. Okay, item number 9. The West Haven plat. I don't have a written description of that item, but if you want to, so staff? Yeah, okay.
You want staff? I can speak if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yes, so this is the West Haven PUD subdivision final plat, section Jewel 2, revision 2. The applicant reached out to us today, noticed a issue with their associated site plan that they'd like to revise. And so they would like to hold off doing this plat until they can update the site plan, and then the easements on the final plat could match. So I will assume that you want to defer 1 month, but I'll turn it over to the applicant for any other questions.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Yeah, I'm Sean McGowan, Wilson Associates, the surveying firm that submitted this. And yes, Amy's correct. We noticed a issue with a water line easement, and so Ben and our staff and our engineering team is working to get that revised.
Okay.
And so we want our plat to match what they're gonna come up with on a revision. And if we defer, that helps then having acceptance and having to redo this. So if we can defer 1 month, that's my request. So
Okay. Staff, we're looking for a
Move for deferral, 1 month.
motion to defer.
Second.
Commissioner Allen. And the second was from Commissioner Mann? Alma?
Yes.
Was that, okay. Any discussion? By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Okay, next item up is item number 12. Consideration of Resolution 2025-108, a resolution adopting an update to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and affirming the city's commitment to providing quality parks, greenways, recreational facilities, and programs for current and future generations. Staff presentation?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to first disclose that I'm on, I had the privilege of serving on the Franklin Baseball Club board, which leases the baseball fields at Jim Warren Park and Liberty Park from the city. This is just a non-compensated position, so I don't feel that there's a conflict that I need to recuse myself, but I did want to make that known.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Heather Eusebio, the Research and Planning Specialist for the Parks and Recreation Department. Tonight, we're presenting the 2026 update to the city's Parks and Recreation Master Plan for your consideration and approval. This document serves as our primary long-range planning guide for how we preserve, develop, maintain, and program our parks, greenways, trails, and recreational facilities over the next decade. Our last comprehensive update was completed in 2015. Since that time, Franklin has experienced significant growth both in population and in the expectations placed on our park system. As our community evolves, it is essential that our planning framework evolves with it. This update ensures that we are proactively addressing increased demand, changing recreational trends, and the need to balance new investments with stewardship of the assets we already have. The update began in 2023 and included extensive coordination among city staff, planning consultants, and community stakeholders. We evaluated our existing parks and facilities, analyzed demographic and growth trends, reviewed service levels against national benchmarks, and identified opportunities to improve connectivity, accessibility, and long-term sustainability. Public input played an important role in shaping this plan. Residents consistently told us that parks and open space are central to Franklin's quality of life. While satisfaction with our system remains high, the community expressed a desire for expanded trail connections, increased walkability, diverse programming, and continued preservation of natural and historic resources. This master plan establishes a clear vision and set of priorities to guide decision-making over the next 10 years. It outlines short, mid, and long-term strategies for land acquisition, park development, facility improvements, maintenance planning, and operational funding. Just as importantly, it is designed to be a flexible living document, one that allows us to respond to opportunities and changing conditions while maintaining a strategic direction. Adoption of this plan will help coordinate efforts across departments, support eligibility for grant funding, and provide a transparent basis for prioritizing capital improvements and resource allocation. It reinforces the city's longstanding commitment to providing high-quality parks and recreational opportunities that support health, wellness, and community identity. In short, this update positions us to manage both responsibility, while we're continuing to deliver the spaces and experiences that make Franklin such a desirable place to live, work, and visit. Staff respectfully recommends approval of this 2026 Parks and Recreation Master Plan update, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? Jim? Yeah, Jim?
Yes. Hi, good evening. My name is Jim Shinley. I live at 319 Braveheart Drive in Franklin. I'm here representing the Franklin Baseball Club. I've been a part of the organization for 12 years. I've been on the board for 10. And I currently serve as the operations manager on the board. We realize it's a little bit late to the game here, but we've had some recent discussions with BOMA and with the city. And I'd like to ask for an amendment to include turfing the baseball fields at Jim Warren Park. Like everything else here in Williamson County, the baseball organization has grown like crazy. We serve about 3,000 kids on an annual basis, and even with that, we still have about another 100 or so sitting on the wait list that we can't squeeze in. If you look or note on page 22 of the master plan, the city's identified that they're having a difficult time serving the community with the number of fields that we have. And while I'm sure there's a great long-term plan, turfing the fields would serve as a quick bridge over this gap. We do our very best to get every kid into the league. It requires us to schedule every available day and field combination. If any kind of weather occurs, which it always does here, there's really no option but for reschedules. It greatly affects the operations. Turf fields would allow us to play through most weather incidences. There's also several tournaments that are conducted on the fields on an annual basis between us and the city. Turf fields would be that shiny new thing that would draw a lot more foot traffic into the area, to include more foot traffic and more capital coming into the area. I'd certainly like to ask you to consider this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Turf has already been talked about at the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
Just to go off of this, the city does have an existing lease with Franklin Baseball Club, and they're looking to amend this lease. Lisa Clayton, our Parks Director, took this as a discussionary topic to BOMA February 10th.
Right.
They gave it the go-ahead to move forward with putting it into the budget for consideration for the spring. So,
okay,
just for some context.
Thank you. Okay, so we're looking for a recommendation of approval of the resolution by the Franklin Planning Commission.
Move for approval.
Second.
So we have a motion for approval to adopt the ordinance by Commissioner Orr and second by Commissioner Allen. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
Well, I have one question. Does the planning commission own this document? I think we're approving, not recommending approval, correct?
Right, we're approving.
Okay. To Mr. Shinley's comments, I obviously have the privilege of seeing the impact of not having the turf fields. And given the discussions with BOMA and, the collaboration with the city, I would like to make an amendment to add turf field as a line item, particularly on page 30 of the improved functional operation and delivery of programs at Jim Warren Park. I think adding that bullet would really kind of tighten up what I think BOMA and the city and the parks are trying to accomplish. So I would make an amendment that turf fields be added to page 30 of the functionality to Jim Warren Park.
Okay. Is there any?
Second, you moved it, I'll second it,
I'm sorry, I do move that, yes.
and I second it.
Is there any further discussion? I'll say, okay, so for the amendment, by roll call vote, Commissioner, this is just for the amendment to add turf fields to the table in the document. Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
Okay, that's the amendment. And then the main motion, the approval of the ordinance, of the resolution, I should say. Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion passes. Okay. Is there any other business? Seeing none, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Is that Harrison?
Harrison.
By roll call, Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
We are adjourned.